All right, now that we have our UV set up, let's take a look at the process of getting back into ZBrush. The way we get back into ZBrush is very much the same way that we went there the first time. We're going to go ahead and export this as an OBJ, and we're going to bring it into ZBrush. So go ahead and select your mesh and do a File Export Selection. For this one, we're going to place it in a new location. We can put it under Assets here if we want, and we can go ahead and just name this Final Topology, or even better, Animation Topology. And then we can go ahead and export this and just make this our human base mesh animation ready. And export. And that will kick this out of here. Now we can fire up ZBrush and we can load up our ZBrush file. With ZBrush loaded here, we might have to change some things. So I'm just going to go back to the settings I normally have, reduce the range there, and do my quick save settings here real quick. And we're going to come up here to Load Tool to load in our tool. And we want to load in the final tool that we used. So we'll go to our ZBrush file here and just find the final one here that we used. It's good to kind of keep track of these. I believe the 34 A-pose was my final one. So we'll go ahead and click Open and open this up. Draw back in the canvas here and go to Edit. Now we're going to come over here to the Subtool menu. We're going to insert a new subtool. We can go ahead and add a cube, so it's different than our eyes. And with that subtool in here, we're going to come up to the menu and click Import. This will import this object onto this cube. We can then come into our assets, our animation topology we just created, and we can click Open. And this will bring this inside of here, and we'll see the two overlapping. Now from here, what we need to do is a detail projection, and there's a certain way I like to do this. So what I like to do is first come into my sculpted mesh here, and I'd like to bake down all the layers that I've created. The reason why I'm baking down these layers is so the projection goes smoother. Sometimes with the layers in here, it actually causes issues. So we're just going to do a bake all there to bake those down. With the poly paint, we can turn off colorize. From there, we can head up to our base mesh now, and we're going to do a couple things here in our subtool. We're going to turn off the eyeball visibility. We don't want to have those on. And I'm going to come down here and click Solo, which lives right down here where my cursor's at, to solo this to see it by itself. From here, I can come to geometry, and we can divide this to be around 6 million polygons. So I'm going to divide until we're close to that 6 million marker. And you'll see right around 6 is going to be when we get to that area. Now from here, what we're going to do is a detail projection. The best way to do this is to do it on a level by level basis, just like we do with Smart Resim. We're going to reduce this down to a division level of 1, come into the subtool here and make sure that only the two objects are visible we want to project details to. Then we want to make sure that we have the object selected we want to project details to. All right, so we're going to have that as our active, and you want to have whatever you're projecting from as your deselected object. Then we can come down here into the project option in our subtool palette. Under the projection, the settings should be good to go to project. The default worked just fine, and we can click Project All. And what that's going to do is it's going to project the detail from the high to the low here, and we can just click that once, and you'll see the vertices will move a bit to match with our topology. We can then hit D to go up in subdivision, and then we can click Project again, and repeat this process just like we would for our Smart Resim. In the process, just be aware that areas that can have issues are going to be the corners of the mouth and the eyes in particular, and any crack or crevice like the ears, those tend to have issues. Let's hit D again, Project All. And this will get progressively longer to do as you go up in subdivision. Press D again, Project All, and just be patient. You don't want to crash it. All right, hit D again, Project All. And then one last time, we're going to hit D, and then we're going to come in here and do a Project All. Now, some things you could actually experiment or could have experimented with is keeping the layers non-baked. And for things like the veins, we could have potentially projected those onto a layer. It just kind of varies whether or not you feel you can achieve that. But you can actually project details onto layers. it can just be tricky sometimes and it can cause issues. So usually it's safer to just not, and to add or remove the details later when you need to. Generally, there's a lot of editing to be done when you convert a base mesh into a character, so it doesn't really matter too much when or how you do it, just understanding that you can. So let's go ahead and let this finish, and then we'll have our projected detail. All right, so at this stage, it should be complete. We are going to want to look it over real quick. So turn on your symmetry with X, and just come in and check areas like the eye cavities, make sure they don't have any issues, and areas like the mouth cavity. And you'll see we do indeed have an issue here. So the way we fix this is with smoothing and working the subdivision levels. So I'm going to come in here and just shift to smooth this area. And what we're going to want to do is basically go down in subdivision. In this case, I'm going to go down real low, all the way down to 2 to try and catch where this issue arose. And just do a little bit of smoothing here to adjust this. And it is not uncommon to have to do some additional sculpting after doing this style of projection, especially if our mouth is really close together like what we have here. Our mouth probably could have been a bit more spread out than what we currently have. You can also see sometimes the smoothing is a bit unpredictable here. It's not really wanting to smooth out correctly. It's trying to smooth up and over. So what I might do is something like this, and then play around with a projection again, because that did change a lot. So I might just do a project all again here and see if we can't get it to project correctly, and just kind of keep noodling it until we get what we want out of it to see if it will behave. So something like that's okay. I think we could live with that. My corners of my mouth weren't super precise, and those are areas that are going to need to be adjusted anyway when it comes to any sort of character you're doing. So if I don't have perfect corners, I'm not going to be completely heartbroken. I'd rather have good topology than worry about perfect corners. I think I skipped a subdivision there on 4. And you can see sometimes you have to do a lot of back and forth as you do this smoothing. For whatever reason, it's just kind of jumping to Timbuktu. Sometimes you get a perfect one-to-one, though. So I do want to emphasize this isn't always common to have to come in here and be doing this a whole bunch. That's interesting, though. The way the smoothing's working is kind of confusing. I'm just very confused why at one point we have it looking good and then all of a sudden we don't. This could be a Maya issue. So we might want to just double check and make sure that that is all welded correctly in the mouth. And I'll just hit F here and just make sure. Okay, there's no issues there. Then in that case, it is just Maya or ZBrush not liking us. So yeah, we'll just continue working this and work our way up. Another way we could try this is just projecting at the highest level rather than doing the iterative lower level. Sometimes it's better to not do the iterative level. The iterative method tends to give better results, but this is kind of being an anomaly here where I can't really account for why that's going up into the top of the mouth there, the way it is all that well. So that is a bit of a nuisance there. It looks like smoothing at the highest subdivision level here is kind of mending that, though, and giving us an okay result. So that might be okay. And if we want to try an experiment here, once we have this okay-ish, we could try a projection at the highest level and just see if maybe this will be okay. So we'll do a project all. This is going to take a bit of time, but we'll see if that fixes it. And it might. It's always worth trying and experimenting. All right, so it looks like it didn't fix that area. We could just try smoothing again at the high subdivision level here if we feel it could potentially be fixed at the highest level. And I'm just smoothing really aggressively here. And I'm actually using my mouse for it to not worry about pressure sensitivity. We could also undo if we felt like what we had was fine. It just kind of depends. I think in this situation, I should be able to bounce between 4, 5, and 6 to fix this and not have to worry too much. But do look for those areas. They tend to pop up. The other areas these can be in is areas like the armpits. So anywhere close together, you'll see we have a slight one here. So I'm just going to make my brush a bit bigger and just kind of smooth across that. Between the fingers sometimes can be an issue if your fingers are too close together. Our fingers are not too close, so they came out okay. And then lastly, generally between the toes, and you'll see, yep, we have a toe getting a little bit funky there. And once again, I'm just holding Shift to smooth and using that to kind of cut back the detail. And this is part of the reason we didn't want to go super detailed on our mesh, if you were wondering. It's just kind of in anticipation of having these sort of issues, because they always come up. There's really no avoiding them. Yet, at least. Maybe in the future we'll have some better options to help avoid these. But generally speaking, these always occur every now and then. And it's kind of weird how inconsistent they are, but welcome to 3D. In between the legs, the groin, the buttocks, these are all areas we could potentially get some of this issue too. I'm going to give the buttocks just a little smoothing to get rid of the line there. And maybe down in here a little bit. You also might find it's easier to remove some of the detail at this point or to edit some of the detail if you wanted to, because we are at a lower overall subdivision. But that should do the trick. Now, the last thing I want to do is just some file cleanup. We don't really need the original mesh at all unless we feel like there's a huge discrepancy. If you want to check them, you can turn off solo, and you could turn on this transparent mode here just to see if there's any huge differences between them, but they're pretty close. So I think that's good. With that said, we can delete the old mesh by just selecting delete here in the subtool palette, hitting OK. And now we just have our retopologized file. We can go ahead and do a save as, save this out as our final here. So we could just go ahead and make this our human base mesh final for ZBrush and click save. All right, there we go. Now, the one last thing I tend to like to check is UVs just to make sure they came in all right. If you come under geometry and reduce this to 1, you can go to the lowest level, and down here under UV map, you can select morph. And you can morph these, and you should see the UVs that we created in Maya. They are flipped in ZBrush, but they should be in here. Okay, so now we have our character all good to go. You can see at our lowest level here, we have our nice looking topology, and we could morph this into whatever we want it to be, all right? So what I want you to do as a final step to setting up your base mesh in ZBrush is go ahead and import your new topology, do a detail projection to get your detail from your high poly onto your low poly, and save it out as a final scene file so that way you can access it whenever you want to start a new character design.